From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good business at Zaxby's, still open, still ongoing. Get yourself some golden fried chicken, why don't you? Drive-thrus open, as well as the food delivery apps. I did those this past weekend here, Corey, and I was just like, yo, leave it on my front doorstep. And I answered my door, and there was Zaxby's on my doorstep. It's pretty cool. Didn't have to talk to anybody.
That's the way to do it.
If they want us to distance, I'm going to distance to the nth degree. I don't want to talk to anybody.
Man. That's a good call. That's a good call.
Also, good call, warchant.com. Subscribe to it if you're not already a member, because that's what you would do if you're not already a member, is that you would subscribe to it. Use a promo code WARCHANT30. It'll get you 30 free days of access. Try it. You'll like it. Lots of good stuff going on this week, despite the fact that there's still no sports going on. Travis J., you all remember him, right? Up the road, Madison County, Greenville, Florida. Ira's got a story focusing on possibly what he can contribute to the program this upcoming season, as well as what Adam Fuller thinks about him. Apparently, Corey, Travis J. was going to exclusively, I think, work out at cornerback this spring, which I was like, whoa, word? Say word? I would have thought he'd be a safety, but cornerback, that's a fun experiment.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how he does with it. I think he also said that maybe even there's a chance he could see a little time on offense or on kick returns.
Ooh.
He is certainly a dynamic athlete. He cannot guard DJ Matthews right now. We saw that at firsthand up close. Those were no contests when they went up against each other. But DJ Matthews is a senior, and he's shifty, and he's a tough to deal with one-on-one. Especially for a kid that's not played corner much in his life and is a bigger kid. So, but that will only make I feel like that will only make Travis J better at corner or whatever position they end up putting him at.
Also coming up later this week on Warchant, it'll be a podcast. It'll probably be the entire show that will run later on the week. But your boy Corey Clark, as well as the Godfather Gene Williams, sat down and talked shop. I don't know whether I want to brand it as war stories or war chatting. But Corey and Gene sat down and shared their memories and walked down memory lane, specifically the 1991 game, Big House, Ann Arbor, Michigan, 51-31 triumph for Florida State. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be on warchant.com. Are you guys going to do like a write-up of sorts, or is it just we're just guys pulling the pin and throwing the grenade on the little audio that I dressed up for you guys?
We'll do. I'll write something for it too.
Okay.
Kind of like a lead-in. I mean, it's not like I'm going to be calling Marvin Jones and Mickey Andrews and getting a bunch of quotes about the game. I can look up some quotes about the game.
There we go.
And just writing about the game, maybe a couple memories I had from actually being lucky enough to be there. And then we're going to do that. I was going to say we'll do it as long as this lasts, but even when everything's back to normal, I think it's something that people, I get it. It's a niche. Not everybody wants to hear Gene and I wax poetic about a game from 25 years ago, but I think there will be enough people that do that we might do this even after everything gets back to normal.
We should, reach out to people that actually played or coached in the game. Like, I bet you if we would have reached out to Mickey, I bet you Mickey would have, could have three-way patched him and you guys could have had him on the call. That would have been pretty cool. So we should, next game, let me know. Although I do a horrible job of getting us interviews for the podcast, at least with that, it's kind of maybe an easier sell than like, hey, will you come on and talk about the state of the program that you're 25 years removed from playing in, as opposed to, hey, Danny Cannell, you want to talk about Choke-a-Doke? Lay it all out there for us. So
that's not a bad idea. We could try that too. But for now, it's just Corey. I shouldn't say just because it's still great content. Mm-hmm. Corey and Gene reminiscing about the 1991 Michigan game. And I'll go ahead and say I will vote against war stories.
Okay.
I don't like that. I don't like the name of that. I just don't. There's a lot of more brave people out there, braver people than I out there.
Don't be that guy. It's a
I
metaphor.
am that guy. I say we do like war chant memories or a trip down war chant lane.
No, war chatting. It's war chatting. Then that's
war chatting. I like war chat too. War chatting works. War stories, I feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's a little dicey for me.
Okay.
Because I don't have any.
That's the whole point. It's because it's you two guys, the most sheltered, successful, well-groomed gentlemen.
Sure.
That's the whole
Absolutely.
point.
Absolutely.
It's called irony. Look it up.
I literally have egg yolk on my shirt right now as we're talking.
There you go. That's your war story, losing a battle against a breakfast sandwich earlier in the day.
That's right.
So that'll be going on, as well as I think maybe at some point this week another recruiting retrospective with Gene will be published. We're going in order, starting from the Rivals era, which is 2002. So next up is 2003, and whoa, boy. Whoa, Nelly. If we want to go back to the Michigan game, whoa, Nelly. Man, if you need a good cry, which I don't think most people do right now, there's a lot of other things going on that are going to make us sad. Go back and look at that 2003 recruiting class. Wow. I mean, it was Ernie Sims, Antonio Cromartie. Like Andre Fluellen was on there, diamond in the rough. And then, boy, it was just, they were scrambling for bodies. And kind of makes everything make sense. When you think back to that dreary night in Tallahassee against Wake Forest, what was it, 30-0?
30-0, yep.
And you're like, well, how did we get here? Pull up your browser. Go look at the 2003 recruiting class. Like, that's how it happens. That's how it happened.
And the only the two, I mean, again, it's a Florida State. I remember that class well. Florida State had already set such a high bar that, that 2002 class was incredible. Like they had like 6 5-star kids, a bunch of parade All-Americans. They already had Leon Washington and Thomas Clayton. And then on signing day, Lorenzo Booker, who was at that time the number 1 player in the country, commits to Florida. I mean, it was just loaded. Buster Davis, Pat Watkins. That next year is when you got the idea, okay, things aren't right. It wasn't just a little blip. That things are going off the rails. Because that class was nothing like any Florida State class of the last 20 years probably. And not only that, the two big stars they got both happened to be from Tallahassee. If they had been from any other city in the country, probably they go anywhere, but they go somewhere besides Florida State.
One was a legacy, so a double legacy.
Yeah. So I mean, they were good. So Ernie and Cromartie were good. Cromartie obviously got hurt this last year, but they both were good. And like you said, Fluellen was good, but oh boy, there wasn't a whole lot after that.
Yeah, there was not. Also, on a brighter note, Florida State back in the Final Four for the first time since 1972 with an asterisk placed next to it. Corey with his latest edition of Florida State's romp through the NCAA tournament. My boy Swatch, I hope that hangs on, Anthony Polite. That was, if you know what I'm talking about, read it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, subscribe and read it. But Corey, again, doing these game stories with some of the absolutely most fantastic and just imaginative quotes, but they're so grounded in reality that it's is it satire? Is that the proper word to use of this art form that you're perfecting?
I think so. I guess satire would work. I think it's just I don't know if it's got a name. I don't think people have done something like this before. At least on the Warchant side, I should say.
Right.
But I guess satire would work. But that almost sounds like I'm making fun of what we normally do, or I'm making fun of the players, and I'm not really doing that. I'm just having fun at everybody's expense. The reader, myself, like I don't ever laugh at anything I write. Like I mean, it would be weird, right? Yeah. To like write something and chuckle to yourself or laugh.
True comedians don't laugh at their own jokes.
Yeah, which is like Dave Chappelle is incredible. He's one of the best of all time, but he laughs way too much at his own jokes. Like he doubles over sometimes. It's like, man, what is that? Yeah. That's not what people do. But like you've heard these jokes before, man. But when I wrote the thing about Vassell thanking Polite for the pass, that made me chuckle, and I don't like it. I just chuckled. And I don't ever chuckle at things I write. So yeah. I hope people are enjoying those the way they're intended. What was funny is Stephanie read one. Stephanie, we call her the first lady of Wake Up Warchant.
Correct. That's correct.
She'll definitely be the first lady of what'd you call it? War chatting.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking on the phone on Sunday, and she's like, "Hey, I really liked your Final Four story." She goes, "It was really funny about AJ and the bear." And she goes, but man, I'm tired of those people commenting on the story saying that you need to quit doing this. And I'm like, it makes me mad, and I want to respond to them. I'm like, you can't read the comments. Don't bother yourself with I'd tell that to my mom, like because she follows Warchant on Facebook. So I would post a column, and then she would see the comments underneath. And I'm like, Mom, you can't read the comments. Don't ever read the comments. They're just going to make you mad, and I don't need you getting into a Facebook war with some dude from Pensacola. Just don't do it. So I had to tell Stephanie the same thing. It's like, don't read the comments.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that. My mom, she's just using emojis now in text messages, so we're nowhere close to her dipping her toe in Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. So
a lot of eggplant.
Hey, come on. It's my mother. It's my mother, Corey.
Sorry, you took a shot at my cleanliness earlier in the show.
Oh, yeah, that's tit for tat. What kind of world are you living in? Definitely not a war story. Definitely have no military history. But, yeah, so I feel like most of the reaction's been positive, man. I think some people are just like, man, this is really bumming me out because I'm thinking about this actually really happening. And it's like, well, that's kind of the point. Let's keep it fresh.
And but what's funny about that is what I was telling Stephanie is like, imagine like, obviously, we're trying to be creative and come up with entertaining things to get you on the site, even if it's to crack a smile for 4 minutes, and then you go back to your day because we're all living in this together. But imagine, like, it hurts no one to write this story. Like, it's not like I'm writing this story in lieu of interviewing Mike Norvell.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I was like, imagine the person that would get online to criticize this story and like, wow, when is this going to stop? It's like, just take that for what it's worth. There are those people, you meet them all the time. They're just people that are going to comment. It's fine. I think, by and large, all the reaction that I've seen and I've gotten that I've actually read has been positive. But I get, some people be like, all right, sure. But we're in too deep now. We can't just stop now.
No turning back. All right, so that's what's going on the website this week. We're going to go back here in a minute and talk about the questions that we missed out on Renegade Express. But otherwise, how you holding up, Corey? Looks like we're probably going to be hunkering down for a little bit longer.
Looks like about another month of social distancing, according to the press conference on Sunday, which was good to see. Look, not many people. I'm not going to say nobody. Not many people tune in to our to hear us talk about the daily briefings. I'm kind of over them. I don't understand the point of them. Like, I just like, no matter what you think of the person, the guy, I like that apparently he's taking the right advice, and he went from, whenever that was, 4 days ago, saying we're going to be roaring by Easter, to now saying, no, we're going to ride this out for another month, which is good. Everything else is bluster and show and nonsense. And I'm not talking about just him nonsense. I don't understand why they're even asking him questions about anything else. I just don't. I don't understand why it can't just be a 5-minute, just a press release even, or get Fauci up there. Let him ask. Let medical. I would love it if they. And I've seen this suggestion on Twitter a couple of times. Instead of having political reporters at these press conferences or press briefings, give us medical reporters and science reporters. And ask questions that matter. Because I just don't think much of the stuff right now matters. And just, I don't know. I won't even talk about it. It just, they serve no purpose. The only thing that comes out of those things is media's trying to get a soundbite to say, look how dumb he is. The guy that's talking is trying to, it seems like, campaign. And in the middle is, we've got 145,000 people infected now and like 2,500 deaths, and it's going to keep going up. And that's all that I care about. I don't care about any of the political stuff. Just give us facts. That's all. And so I don't know. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there, but that was just, I saw a little snippet of the press conference on Sunday. I stopped watching them because I don't want to give CNN ratings. I guess. Yeah,
big ratings.
Huge ratings, Monday Night Football ratings, like that's
Bachelor ratings.
Yeah, again, it's just it boggles my mind. The whole thing, it's all a circus, and it takes two to dance. You know what I mean? It takes two to tango. So you can say what you want about him and the things he says or the things he tweets, but they keep airing it because he's right. He gets ratings, and that's what they care about. So anyway, that's just that's Corey Clark taking both sides, but I'm kind of fed up with both sides right now, and all I really care about is the truth that's in the middle somewhere.
Oh, hey, no smooth segue to this. I played tennis over the weekend. Yeah, I was going to ask you how you holding up. You're supposed to talk about you're hanging out Brady this weekend and things went good and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's fine.
But then I took you to a C-SPAN territory. Ira and I continued our one-sided rivalry. Ira I'm trying to think. What is like I don't know. It's like Duke versus NC AT&T or whatever. Is pretty much what it's become. I lost the first set 6-4, and then I just kind of gave up. I don't want to say gave up. That would say that like I'm letting Ira win, which I'm not. I'm trying. I'm competitive, but I just had no heart left in me in the second set. It took us so long to get through the first set, so we lost 6-4, 6-1. That doesn't really That's not the important part. Important part is we saw a couple. Actually, they were next to us on the tennis courts. They were using one of the tennis courts to play like soccer, like they were volleying the ball over the net and stuff. And his name was Nick, and he was with his lovely girlfriend Bree. And they're like, "Hey, are you Irish O'Fell?" He's like, "I recognize your voice." And then, sure enough, he listens to headlines. He also listens to Wake Up Warchant, and wanted me to tell you that he expects to see you out there playing tennis next time. So you've been put on alert, Corey.
Hey, man, I actually played tennis a good bit last week.
Okay.
Stephanie, no, that was 2 weeks ago maybe. I don't remember. But Brady and I, and then Brady and also with Brady's mom, Shanna, who I don't know why I said Brady's mom. People know her name. She played tennis. She's really good. She's much better than I am. So, we're trying to play tennis as much as possible because it seems like that's about as good a sport as you can play right now, right?
Yeah.
Golf, I guess, too, if you got your own cart.
So wait, was all four of you? Was it you, Stephanie?
No, because Stephanie wasn't up here. It was Stephanie last week, and then Shanna and I and Brady this past whatever that was.
That's
this past
it. Like,
weekend.
come on, man. Like, geez, we get it. You all get along, but come on.
Well, and Stephanie played tennis in high school too, so they got a lot in common. No offense to Stephanie, but Shanna would beat her. I guess Shanna would beat her like Ira beats you.
Oh, ouch. I'm going to figure it out.
So you said it was 6-4, 6-1, but it seemed like y'all played like 2 hours.
Literally, yeah. It's because like every game, I guess is the right word, right? Every game went to add. Like everything went like deuce, add in,
geez.
Deuce, add out, deuce, add in, deuce. It was a war of wills. Ira's a little stronger than mine. This is my thing. I didn't throw my racket. I kind of threw my racket for the first time. I can't. I either have to want to kill you in competition or like I can't. I'm not. It doesn't work. Like I can't be. I'm gonna have fun and I'm gonna compete. I can't. I either have to be out there like I just want to take you down and humiliate you, or it's just I don't know what I'm doing. I'm stuck in this like gray area. So Ira's doing a good job of whooping me, putting me to the point where I'm not going to care about our personal relationship much longer. I have a last name and it means something to me. So stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
I might just start really going for broke out there against them.
You need to. I mean, I don't know that you need to start being like, who's that tennis player that's such an ass?
Oh my God, my boy Nick Kyrgios.
Is it Kyria? I thought there was a G in there somewhere. I guess I'm wrong.
It is. There is a G, but it's like Greek, so I think it's got some sort of weird.
Oh yeah, you could just be like that guy and just talk. Or McEnroe, or call everything out when it's in.
Well, that's the worst thing too. And he was telling me, I don't understand how collegiate and I guess even high school tennis works out, because like they call their own points, like they call fault, they call in and out, and like so many times we'll be playing. And he'll be like, was that in? I'll be like, I don't know, dude. It looked into me. And it's like, all right. And I'm like, hey, was that fault? He's like, no, it was in. I'm like, all right. Like, I'm not paying attention. Like, even when he's serving at me and sometimes like, he'll get his first serve in, he's got some sauce on it. I'm just like, he's like, was that in? I'm like, I don't know, dude. I returned it, so let's just play it, And then you're not even saying that in real time. It's like after the point is, one of you is not 100% into it because you don't know whether it's in or out, and it creates this kind of weird dynamic. But like, it's just two dudes playing tennis. I can't imagine being an NCAA Division I athlete, like, and you're playing a dude from North Carolina, like you're calling your own points. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, and they do that. Like that, I've watched plenty of college tennis matches, and I think what'll happen is if somebody, I think you can ask for, I think they have one, I might be making this up. I think there's one like referee or two referees for 7 matches.
Okay.
I think it's 7, might be 5. Who knows? Who cares? 5 matches. So if you're having a problem, and I used to work with a guy that was had been a college tennis player, and I was like, what happens if a guy just starts cheating and calling everybody out? It's like you complain, and then they'll either bring an official over to watch the match. You can ask for an official to watch, or you can ask for a coach. You can have a bystander come over and watch and make calls and overrule if they have to. Because he said he was playing a guy that was notorious for, they had played him a few times in years past, that was notorious for calling things out when they were in. So he, my buddy, well, he wasn't, I guess he was my buddy. He's not, I haven't talked to him in 2 decades now. We worked together in Thomasville.
Is this the same 2-decade guy you haven't talked to from the last episode? You got all these friends.
No.
Like he was in your wedding or you were in his wedding. You're like, yeah, I haven't talked to him in like 20 years.
Completely different guy. This guy's name was Volker. He was German. He was, and he worked in Thomasville, Georgia with me.
Okay.
Just crazy. He was obviously very intelligent, athletic, former college tennis
obviously
player.
Intelligent because he's German. Trying to say all
I don't
German
know
people are
why I
smart?
said obvious. You wouldn't know that. He was. But yeah, we were both making $340 a week in Thomasville, Georgia, writing about high school sports. So he wasn't that intelligent, I guess. And he said that he had a tennis match where he was playing a guy that was notorious for doing that, and he made a couple bad calls in a row, like early on. So then Volker called one out that was obviously in by like 1.5 foot. And he's like, "That's out." My point. I win the game. He's like, and the guy just exploded. It's like, no way. No. And so from then on, they had somebody watch the match.
Yeah, Ira's got great competitive integrity, as do I. I'm not trying to cheat anything. He's not either. It's hard to focus on like a serve and whether it's in or not or out, and then like return it properly. And I don't know. That's why we need you out there. Hurry back, Corey. Hope see you someday.
Hey, sometime this week, I'm going to be back down there.
Okay. All right, let's get to some of
the state's open. If the state's open.
Yeah, it might be a checkpoint. Well, you got a Florida tag, I hope, right? Or not? I mean, we get you 2 tags. You can flip them and flop.
Yeah, that's another thing. I love all the pictures I see of people on the beach still in our state.
Yeah.
I hope they're not from Louisiana. Like, how about we wrap up the stuff in our own state before we worry about people from Louisiana coming, man? Get people off the beach. I want a college football season.
Yeah.
I'm selfish. I want people to subscribe to Warchant. I want to get to write about real sports again instead of making up mascot fights. So get off the beach and get inside and quit. Just practice what they're telling you to practice so we can stop this thing. It's going to get bad, I feel like, for the next week or so or 10 days. But hopefully after that, things will start dialing back and we can have a life again starting the summer. But you yahoos, not talking to anybody that listens to this show because they're obviously smart enough to listen to this show. They're not doing this. Get off the beach and quit having stupid Corona parties. Anyway.
Gosh, I really want to dive deeper into this, but we can't. It's not our job.
Hey, by the way, I know you have. I guess Derwin James played Michael Vick tonight on in Madden in like a Madden Invitational.
Oh, nice.
And Derwin beat him 80-16.
Come on, Derwin.
Apparently, judging by Tavares McFadden and Jacques Patrick, Twitter timelines, Derwin James is apparently unbeatable at Madden.
Okay.
Which is great,
Derwin.
right? Like,
there we go.
That's he not only could he jump over a car when he was 14 years old, literally, and he's one of the best athletes in the world. He's also great at Madden. Yeah. Perfect. I mean, that's fair.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at
Madden
it.
is supposed to be something I'm good at.
Right.
But no, he gets to be good at the real thing and the video game.
Somebody tweeted, Derwin James just treated Michael Vick like a dog from 2007.
I mean, I don't know about all that. No.
That's hilarious. I'm sorry. Get a.
Okay.
He lost $100 million. Let the guy live his life. It's a good joke. Let the dogs rest in peace, though. Anyhow, yeah. So we can't talk about coronavirus. Although I really want to dive deeper into it, but we can't. So let's talk about.
No, it's fine. It's
questions. B4Real27. Wake up. He's been around since September 24th, 2014. This is only his 8th ever post.
All right.
That's crazy. That's great, man. You've been around for 6 years talking to us. Awesome. First-time poster, I love what you guys do every day for people you don't even know. You bring normalcy to a time in everyone's life where things are so filled with uncertainty everywhere you look. My question is, I was listening to an interview with Urban Meyer, and I know, screw that guy, right? But he's a winner, and I think he knows what he's talking about. He was saying one of the biggest issues when he was at Florida was that he had a serious problem finding finished and polished players from the state of Florida. He went on to say that even though Florida talent is as good as any, if not better, they are project players you have to really work to help them fill their full potential. Do you think this is the real reason for the slip from the glory days, the lack of assistant coaches that could take the time and teach and perfect the little detail things that a big-time program is supposed to be able to be the best at? And do you think the administration got right with Coach Mike Norvell because of all the good things we hear he seems to be? That's the exact style coach. He's going to be a perfect fit. What do you guys think? Thanks again for what you do. Well, that feels like a divergent kind of question there. I was about to dive in elbow deep in that because, I've worked in a couple different states. I've worked in Montana. I've worked in Mississippi. I've worked in Alabama. Now, I've worked in lower Alabama, which is not really a hotbed for talent in the state. Most of the talent in Alabama's concentrated like around Birmingham, Montgomery when it comes to basketball, and Mobile, like your larger cities, which is probably the case for everywhere. Like, right, Florida is Miami. And I'm not, and this is going to make a lot of people mad. I'm not trying to make you mad. And maybe it was because I'd been so far removed from watching high school football. I hadn't watched it since I was in high school. But I remember watching the teams in Montana, covering them in high school. Like they only had like Class A and Double A. But the passing offenses in the state of Montana, I thought were so much more developed than what I'd ever seen in Florida. Now, again, I hadn't watched high school football closely in Florida for a while, and obviously there had been a big revolution that occurred with the advent of the spread offense and things of that nature. But I would say in Mississippi, man, the amount of money they invest in high school football, and I worked in Jackson, which is the largest city in Mississippi. It's the capital. There's numerous state championship programs. Cam Akers played at a state championship program from there. Like the amount of resources they put in states like Mississippi, and you can talk about where your priorities are at, but they play a different brand of football. I do think they are more organized. There's much more structure. There is much more support. And I'm not trying to dog the coach that we have in the state of Florida, but so many of them have to coach. They have to coach and teach. I mean, there's so many coaches in Mississippi. Literally, the head football coach doesn't teach anything. Like our head football coach, when I was in high school, he was an American history teacher. Our assistant coaches were American government teachers. Like they had to double dip, and they were spread really thin, man. In Mississippi, like a lot of the coaches are just straight up, I'm a football coach, or they have a lot of volunteer assistants that used to play football and kind of come back home after, not making it in the league or playing a few years. I do think there's probably some truth to that, and a lot of it's the money too, man. Like assistant coaches in Georgia, or not assistant coach, but head football coach, you probably know better than I do, Corey. I remember Ira telling me that when I first interned about when he left, Thomasville and southern Georgia, like in the late 90s, you're making six figures as a head football coach in Valdosta or Colquitt County, and you're getting a free truck from the Ford dealership. Pretty sure head football coach at Godby's not pulling six figures. Pretty sure the head coach at Lincoln's not pulling six figures.
That was one of the when I took the job at the Tallahassee Democrat in 2007. I'd worked only in Georgia. I'd worked in Thomasville, which they won a bunch of state championships and they paid their head coach a lot of money. Then I'd gone to Valdosta, which is Valdosta, and then I went up to Gwinnett County, which had Parkview, Buford, Brookwood, all these state powers, and the coaches get paid. I mean, obviously they're not on the scale of a college football coach, but that stipend is a real big deal. It's a huge stipend, especially the head coaches. They're rich. I mean, they're six figures, some of them. In what my biggest surprise when I took the job at the Democrat to cover preps was, that the football coaches at the time, and this was 10 or 12 years ago, I assume it's the same, but I don't know. They're not really paid any differently than like a basketball coach or a volleyball coach or a track and field coach. Maybe there are some differences, but to the most part, they don't get paid. The coaches in Florida that I could tell, and again, I'm talking 10 or 12 years ago, weren't getting paid anything close to what the coaches in Georgia were getting paid. And so, maybe you're not, and this isn't to impugn any of the. I'm sure we have Florida football coaches that are listening, and in fact, if you are, I'd love for you to tweet at the show or leave a question for the next Renegade Express, because I'm interested. You don't have to tell us your salary, but what the stipend is. Is it an extra 30 days? Is it an extra 2 weeks? What's the stipend for being an assistant coach? What's the stipend for being a head coach?
Well, hey, I got something here real quick from Jacksonville. Apparently, Rains High School, Rains High School, which is in Jacksonville, their head coach. This was 2019. His stipend was $4,700.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Camden County High School in Kingsland, Georgia, is the closest Georgia school to Duval County. Their football coaching supplement, $30,000.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. And I never even thought about that before. I trust Urban Meyer. This is the only time I'll probably ever say that. Right. I trust Urban Meyer with that sentiment, because it makes sense. You're not, and especially probably in South Florida. I mean, look, man, Luther Campbell is the head coach of a high school football team in South Florida.
Is he?
He was. What was it? Miami Edison, maybe?
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I remember, because he went off on the refs and said we got cheated. That was last football season. He's like, all I can tell you is we got cheated. We're never coming up here again to play.
Yeah, you're right, Edson. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Sweet. So that's what you're dealing with. And I remember, especially in South Florida, where there's in Miami, they'll take, I know that, like, I watched The Year of the Bull. Do you remember that documentary?
I never got to see it, but with Torian Charles
Torian Charles, the kid that ended up going to Florida, who was a 5-star super duper recruit from Miami. Well, their football coach was a security guard.
Right.
And and there's a lot of guys that are that don't even work for the school that are coaching. And look, man, you're not getting the same instruction at Miami Edison under a has-been rapper as you are at Buford High School in Buford, Georgia, or at Parkview, or Hoover, or name any other school, a school in North Carolina. You're just not. So there might be something to it, but I wouldn't say that you can. It's always been that way. Right. I think anyway. Maybe something changed in the last 25 years, but Florida State and Florida and Miami were still all able to make do, even with maybe that what you'd call being hamstrung a little bit by the coaching they're getting in high school. They still were able to make do for 30 years. So I don't know that I'd blame it on that. But it is an interesting concept that you think about the coaching, or maybe the coaching these kids aren't getting, that they'd be getting at other bigger schools in other like Texas. Man, you can't, like, who produces more talent in the country? It's between what? California, Texas, and Florida, right? Probably right. Florida and Texas.
Right. What
are the Texas coaches making, man? It's crazy when you think about it. Like Texas, it's probably Texas and Florida for producing high-level Division I football talent. And I can guarantee you the coaches in Texas aren't getting a $4,700 stipend to work 70 hours a week and put together a game plan and to teach kids the fundamentals of football. They're getting a lot more money than that. So,
I'm sorry, Corey. In 2018, there were 270 high school coaches in Texas with a salary over $100,000 American dollars.
So there you go, folks. So I think those kids are probably getting a little better coaching. Not that the kids in Florida aren't getting coaching, and actually kudos to the guys that do it, because they are doing it for the love of the game. Absolutely. They're not doing it. Yeah. They're not doing it for dollars, because you're not getting rich doing it. You're a teacher. Most of them are teachers, obviously. And on top of a 40-hour work week, what are you adding another 25, 30 hours a week to be a football coach for a couple grand? Yeah. It's really commendable. So I'm not trying to take anything away from them, there's some of these schools, I'm not talking to you if you're listening, but some of these other schools probably aren't getting great coaching.
Well, being in Mississippi, I befriended so many of the coaches there, and they've got it built into where, like, when you work at the public school, I think after 20 or 25 years, you become vested. So many of these coaches, they'll leave Mississippi after 20, 25 years to go get another coaching job in another state so they can double dip, so they can get their pension and their current salary at a new place. None of them come to Florida. None of them come to Florida to coach. They'll go to Arkansas, they'll go to Alabama, they'll go to Tennessee. Like, none of them come to Florida. And I think part of, we've always talked about what's the offensive line problem, right? What's the dilemma with the offensive line? And now, granted, Miami and Florida are recruiting from the same pool of athletes, and their offensive lines don't seem to be as bad as Florida State's. But I think a lot of it, too, goes to the fact that offensive line is a technique-based learning sort of position. And you need really good coach to teach you that. Like, Florida hasn't really ever been. I mean, you want to talk about what's happened here maybe in the last 20 years. Florida's made do in the past and has had great high school teams and programs, and they still do, obviously. But there's certain positions that we excel at having. I mean, you need skill position guys, you need defensive backs, you need wide receivers, you need running backs. Florida's got you covered. Like, offensive linemen, I mean, we got defensive linemen. We got no problem finding Timmy Jernigans. They grow on trees. But, like, offensive linemen, where you can't just be like, hey, man, get after the quarterback. Just use your brute strength and get through the line and disrupt things, where it's like you need to have your footwork. You need to have hand placement and all these things that go into becoming a good offensive lineman, things you need to teach and rep over and over. Like, I don't think there's a huge market for that in this state. And I think that's part of why Florida State has found it so difficult to get a good offensive line, because you got to go out of the state, and then that just creates a whole nother kind of uphill battle when you're trying to bring guys in.
You're right. Well said, Aslan. Well said.
All right, next one, Madville boys. Actually, this kind of dovetails into what we mentioned earlier. He's been around since September 1st, 2003. Could you guys speak more on the first half of the Dynasty run? I was born in 89. My first FSU memory is the 93 title game with my family, which I have a story about, side note. Been a long time fan. I have this side note, by the way, Corey. But with that being said, I don't know too much about those late 80s, early 90s teams, with the exception of the big-name guys. Just how dominant were we in those years? How nasty were those Mickey Andrew defenses when we were getting the best recruits in the nation? Which Dynasty team that didn't win the championship was the best in y'all's opinion? Just a few ideas for topics I think would be interesting. Thanks. Well, again, the 91 game, Michigan, which in my opinion, I know Corey will probably differ on this, and he's more educated, and his opinion carries much more weight when it comes to the history of Florida State football. And I know the Dynasty started in 87, but that game against Michigan was like the watershed moment, in my opinion, I thought. that was like the real, I don't know, maybe it's because of my age, but I remember being in fourth grade when that game came out, and everybody was talking about that. Like, the teachers, we had so many teachers at our elementary school that went to Florida State and went through the education school or whatever to become a teacher. And like, everybody was talking about how big of a deal that game was going to be. And this was going to be like the real put up or shut up kind of moment. I think you even talked about your father you and him walking out of there like, this is our year. Was it the biggest watershed moment for the team or for the program, or did something happen between 87 and 90 that you think takes precedence?
Yeah, Gene and I talked about that a lot too. It was a really, really big one. I don't know if it was the watershed moment, but it was a kind of a signal to the country, I think, because it was the whole deal going into that game was it was power versus speed, power versus finesse, speed and style and flash versus substance, old school football versus new school football. And then you go into that game and, Michigan put up 30 points, but that's because they had flipping Desmond Howard, who was awesome. But they ran, and I only know this because we just did the podcast, Michigan had 44 rushing attempts for 120 yards. Like, that's less than 3 yards a carry.
And they actually ran it pretty well in the first, drive or two, I feel like.
Yeah. They had Ricky Powers, and he was good, but they got shut down in the second half. They couldn't run the ball. Yeah. And that was against the so-called, the fast but small, easy to push around Florida State defensive line. So I think that was kind of telling that, okay, look, in the South, obviously Miami had already won a couple of championships and Florida State had come really close, but it kind of showed the rest of the country they can play any style you want to play. They're really good up in the trenches too. I don't know if I would say that was the watershed moment, though. I think it was just a combination of stacking those years on top of each other. But yeah, I'm trying to think. If you want to talk about the early part of the Dynasty, I think you would say it was just so many could-have-beens or almosts. If they don't open the season with Miami in 88, that was just an awful opening day for them. Like, if they could have opened with anyone else and played Miami in November or October, I think it's a completely different game. If they could kick field goals in 91 and 92, if half the team didn't get hurt in 91 at the LSU game, 89, if Brett Favre doesn't beat them, They win the national championship in '89. I know those are big names. He's a big name anyway. But if they could have even lost to Clemson that year in '89, they still would have won the championship. In '90, if they'd have beaten Auburn, which they kind of controlled that game and just gave it away at the end at Auburn, they would have won the national championship. There was 5 years in a row where literally if one little break goes a different way, they're playing for a national championship all 5 years and probably win 3 or 4 of them. So I think that's what, when you look at the first half of the Dynasty, that's kind of where you look at is they were so good that obviously they finished in the top 4 every year, but they were 1 or 2 plays every season away from probably winning the national championship. And I think if you're young, like our list, what did he say he was born? 89?
89.
So he's 31. He's not a young pup necessarily, but he's certainly younger than I am. And he's much younger than you too. I guess you're both still in your 30s.
Yeah.
But it's the quarterbacks. Like like Peter Tom Willis in '89. If you want to go watch a highlight film, that dude was awesome. He was incredible.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about the program back then was that these guys all started when they were redshirt juniors. They were like bred to be the starter. Chip Ferguson. Danny McManus in '87. Because he kept getting hurt. But Danny McManus was awesome in '87. He was the quarterback that started the Dynasty. He was a senior. Then Chip Ferguson was a senior in '88, and he had a nice year. '89, Peter Tom Willis was a senior. He waited his turn. He was awesome. And then 1990 is when they started the redshirt junior trend, where every 2 years another redshirt junior would take over and start quarterbacking them, and that was Brad Johnson and Casey Weldon. So, it'd be hard to just talk. That's such a general, broad subject.
I think he was giving us some ideas for the future.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. We might. Yeah, and like I said, Gene and I will probably be doing a lot of shows about those games. We'll also we'll fast forward to the Jimbo era too, but the Jimbo era was pretty recent. Like I feel like the '90s, and we could open some. Talk about some things and open up some eyes to fans that weren't around or haven't watched those games and explain why they meant so much to the history of Florida State football.
A follow-up comment from us, MCAT-DT, Marching Chiefs all the damn time, 77. He asked us on last week. Everybody asked us last week, but we weren't able to get to everybody's question, obviously, but was saying he was concerned about the diet and the workout, which I kind of am getting a little bit more now, too, just because I'm working out from home, and I'm like, there's no way this is going to get you physically prepared to play in a football game. So, I don't know what they're working out, but I really don't know how productive it is working out at home. But our own Irish O'Fell did say that they are working things out in terms of trying to get diet stuff figured out. I don't think not so much. He said in the group text, Corey, which if you scroll up to the Friday 12:01 a.m. text, Ira said that. He did listen to the show and he meant to tell us to interject with some information. Nothing on the record, but it sounds like they're still trying to work something out to where the diet, which is something I think you were kind of more focused on, Corey, or at least more curious about because, these are large human beings, grown-ups, GAMs that need to be fed. But so apparently that's something that's still ongoing, but hopefully they're closer to figuring out how to get it done. The Meals on Wheels thing, which I want, is probably a pipe dream, but we'll keep you posted the more we know about these things. Hopefully we'll have more conversation with the staff as this whole thing drags out. Because, I think they want to talk to us. They want to keep their name out there. Let us know.
I wonder, you just wonder how it's going to be. Like, what would you do, really? Like, if you were if you were the athletic director of the commissioner of the ACC, what would be your edict for these football teams trying to feed their players? I would reach out to the NCAA, and I don't know if there's no. Say that. Take the NCAA out of it.
Okay.
Just you. What would you do? What would you grant them per player per week to feed, and how would you feed them?
I would,
because I don't know that you just want to give them a check.
I'd reach out to Publix because it's the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I would reach out to the largest grocer in the state and see about getting gift cards to give to the pro. Be like, hey, we're going to give you guys $50,000 a month in Publix gift cards to distribute to your student athletes. And if they live in Texas, then I don't know, the Hy-Vee or something. Maybe broker with the Big 12. See if they got some guys that live in Florida. You can give them some of the Publix gift cards. Have them give some of their Hy-Vee to the guy who lives in Texas. Although I can't even. Is there anybody on the roster from Texas?
Probably.
Marvin Wilson. Sorry, Marvin. We love you.
Who's he?
Sorry.
Is he a new guy? Is he a freshman?
Yeah, some guy named Marvin. I know that sounds ridiculous, but to your point, I think you're trying to make is that you just can't. We want to help out the student athletes, but you can't just give them a blank check because there's no telling where it's going to go to, and that's not an indictment on our kids. It's anybody, right? I mean, heck, they're going to give us a stimulus check apparently if we make less than $100,000, and I'm sure they probably want us to spend it some way, but we'll be spending it a million different ways.
Too bad for me. I don't fall into that category.
Oh, hey.
It's a joke, folks.
One of my buddies
I certainly fall into that category.
One of my buddies was lamenting about that. He's like, I'm not going to get one. I'm like, you know what? Put that on your bio on your dating app. Just be like, first drinks on you, honey, because I'm not getting my stimulus.
I don't qualify for the stimulus.
Yeah.
That's not a bad play. That's a good bio.
Yeah. So,
did you do the math? Is that what it would be? Would it be $50,000 a month?
I don't know. I pulled a number out that seems, somewhat feasible.
Well, what do we think? Didn't we say? Let's just say, what do we think it costs to feed a football player for a week?
It's so tough because you're buying them. I don't know. Let's say $20, $20
a day.
You're buying in bulk. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll say $150 a week per player. So $150 times, we'll say 80.
I hope you're using a calculator because I can't do any mental math, my friend.
So that's $12,000. Yeah, that's $12,000 a week. So $48,000, round up to $50,000 a month. That's crazy. So Florida State. I don't know what
to feed how many guys? Just one guy?
No, to feed 80.
Okay.
It's $48,000 a week.
Well, why don't you do 85? You got 85 on scholarship.
Well, I don't think they're using 85 scholarships.
Oh, okay. Look at you.
That's
You're
what
right.
I was saying. So I was
right.
saying 80. So
Right.
some of the kids aren't on campus yet. Yeah, what are you doing for those guys? But I guess you wouldn't be able to do anything right now anyway. But so yeah, you're talking about $600,000 a year. Is that what? That must be what they pay. That's what all these teams pay, right?
Yeah, man.
Man, it costs a lot. It takes a village to feed a football team.
Oh, by the way, the guy was asking about his memory was the 93 championship game. So I had to, dress up the audio that you and Gene did. So I had to try to find a photo of you on Google that, was easily photoshopped so they could integrate it into the
Wait, a photo of me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because we don't have, we got to take it Olin Mills, get some headshots so we can have him ready, Sure. We really all should. And I'm kind of half joking, but I'm being serious. I mean, most news stations, everybody's got, a professional headshot so that, when, Ira's on the Cameron show and they pull his graphic up for their live stream, it's not a photo of Ira from 1995. Although you look really good back then, guy. Still looking good, Ira. But the photo that came up was a photo of you and your father at the 93 national title game. And you look like a scary dude. You look like a guy I probably wouldn't run up on Corey Clark circa 1993.
Wait, what?
You
Googled me and you...
I Googled Corey Clark FSU because I wanted to find hopefully a headshot of you when you worked at the Democrat. Because I'm I can't just type in Corey Clark because there's a million Corey Clarks in the world. So I'll do Corey Clark, Florida State. I think I did FSU. And a bunch of images came up from Warchant. There's a couple of the video wrap-ups you do when you're in Tallahassee, and then one of them was it was linked to your father's obituary, and the photo that you guys used for your father's obituary was your father and some. Was that your sister, the blonde? Was she with you guys at the national title game?
Yeah, that's my sister.
She's a good-looking girl. And then you.
Hey, is that because of the thing I said about your mom earlier?
No, Sharon and your father did very well, man. Good.
I don't look scary. That's crazy. I can't believe I haven't seen this picture in 25 years.
You look like a b-boy, man. I'm like, oh, look at this guy, man. I ain't rolling up on him.
I'm wearing my Georgia Southern hat. I had to represent.
Yeah.
That's where I was going to school at the time before I transferred to Georgia.
Yeah, I'll retweet it I'll tweet it out from the Wake Up Warchant Twitter account so you folks can see what we're talking about. But yeah, I saw that. I thought it was quite a nice little photo, man. Your father.
Hey, how do I I know people want to listen to this. How do I
save it?
Save it on my computer so I can send it to my sister.
Right-click on the photo, and you should have an option that says Save Image As.
See, it just clicks on it, and it takes me to the obituary.
Right. Well, when you're at the obituary, don't you see the photo again in the actual obituary? on that page?
No.
I'll get it to you. I'll email it.
Okay,
to you.
you do it. You do it. I can't deal with it.
Hashtag Director of Digital Media. All right, we got two more questions. Let's get to them here. We got Okaloosa Noel. He joined last Monday. This is his first and only post. Wake up! Hey guys, love the show. Love what you guys are doing during this trying time to keep us entertained and up to date on what news there is happening in the Seminole world. First time poster, just signed up for Warchant to help curb the boredom and love it so far. Don't know what took me so long. And for real, people, it's, you pay my salary, so I'm going to keep begging you every single day. But if you're a Florida State fan, especially now, there's nothing going on. And I know a lot of people aren't working, so you got to watch your money. And I get that for sure. But, let's be honest. I think hopefully everybody takes stock after this and realizes just how maybe busy they really aren't in life, or how much time they can have to maybe have some solitude. Because everybody's always been go, go, go in our world. Everyone's always go, go, go. Say, hey, man, you got 30 minutes that you just twiddle your thumbs. Use it to go on Warchant if you're a Florida State fan. Mix it up with people. It's worth it.
And right now, it's a lot of reminiscing about the good old days.
Indeed.
Not a ton of news, although we have some news, and we're going to continue to have news. Yep. And like Aslan said, we have an interview or a story about Travis J. So we're still doing that as well. But in the message boards, there's a lot of remember when, or what's your favorite this, or what's your favorite that, and it's a great congregating place for Florida State fans without actually having to be next to each other.
Yeah. And
it's the ultimate social distance, right?
Yeah.
A message board.
Absolutely. And shout out to Florida State's media relations department, because they did reach out to all of us and ask us if we wanted interviews with players, and that's why you're going to hear from Travis J. That's why you heard from Devontae Love-Taylor last week. So hopefully there should be, we would hope, more opportunities, and we'll keep bringing them to you. And Ira and Corey adding their insight on top of the quotes, which is what you need. Anyhow, Okaloosa Noel says he's a longtime listener to the show. I've always wondered what you guys thought about the logo change curse. You may have already talked about it, but I was doing some research, found out that the Pittsburgh Penguins in the NHL had a similar curse. They changed to a sleek design and almost immediately quit competing for Stanley Cups. Some year later, they changed back and won two immediately. Not a big superstitious guy, but it could be a psychological thing. I know it doesn't really mean much, but I like the old unis and logo much better, and at this point, I'm willing to try anything. Thank you, guys. Go Noles. You are absolutely right, Okaloosa Noel. Although they were coming off back-to-back Stanley Cups, they changed their logo, but then that year they won the President's Cup, which is the award given to the team that has the most wins or the most points in the NHL. And they also had the longest winning streak, or non-losing streak, because they had a tie, I think, in NHL history. So they were rocking and rolling with that new logo. But they lost in the conference semifinals in 7 games, overtime, Game 7 at home. David Volik. It was horrible.
Wow.
Say that name again. I was a huge Pittsburgh Penguin fan growing up. Maybe not as big as Tim Lenefelt, but man, I knew Pittsburgh Penguin hockey from 91 to 96 was injected into my veins. Which is
okay. All right.
I should have done that with Florida State, because that's what my career turned out to be. But I loved hockey. I loved it. But yeah, say David Volik in front of Tim Lenefelt and watch him squirm. And then in 2008 or so, they went back to their old skating Penguin logo. And then sure enough, in 2010 or 2009, they made the Stanley Cup and lost to the Red Wings. And I think in 2010, they ended up winning it for the first time since they had changed the logo. It does something.
That's
to me,
great
man.
stuff. That's great stuff that you know all that. Is Lemieux still on the team?
He's not. I don't even think he owns any more of the team. Or actually, maybe he owns a little part of it.
Oh, okay.
People get it's a really divisive issue on the message board, so much that where it's all quarantined into one post. Literally, if you make a post about the uniform, it gets zapped. There's just something, and honestly, for me, I know a lot of it. I say that I'm maybe not as impassioned about the team as you folks at home want me to be, because it's my job to be a little bit objective when it comes to talking about this team. But I'm telling you, man, I know it sounds silly, but I went back and watched the Michigan game because Corey and Gene were talking about it, and that logo and the colors, that's what I grew up on. That's what I remember. And I look at the team now. And I know it's laundry. I know it's just textile manufacturing. It's nylon and cotton and polyester. But there's something about I don't even know what this kind of is. And that sounds dramatic. If they're in a national title game, I'm going to yell just as loud as I did in Pasadena. But there's a little bit of something that takes the oomph out of it for me, for sure. I'm crazy, though. I'm in the minority, I think.
But you don't think it's a jinx. You're just bummed out by it.
Yeah.
Like, I think they've had more of a jinx with offensive linemen.
Right.
That's been the jinx of the program is offensive line, not the logo.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe put the old one on. Maybe it'll just look good, feel good, good, play good.
And I will say this. So that was 2014 where they made the drastic changes, right? Like right after the national championship game. So that was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So now is maybe another year or two. Wouldn't you go back? Because wouldn't it be a huge moneymaker to go back? To the old logo, so people can buy more shirts with the old logo, and they'll come out of the woodwork to buy apparel with the old logo on it and the real colors on it. So I think that's what you do. That was Nike's playing chess. They give a logo that's very unpopular. They tweak the colors to the point that it angers Florida State fans, and then 6-7 years later they circle back and say, "Hey, here you go. Here's a chance. We're going back to the old logo. Buy more clothes. Buy another sweatshirt." I think that's the way you do it.
I would like to ask somebody at Garden and Goal how they do on that Nike Vault collection. It's called like Nike Vault, like Vault. Am I saying it? Vault. V-A-U-L-T. I know how to pronounce Vault.
Vault.
It's my accent. It's
also it's divisive, not divisive.
Well, it can be both. I think it's potato, data.
Yeah, but have you ever met anyone that said they're going to order potato salad?
Whatever, Corey. Whatever, man.
That's such a dumb song. You say nobody says tomato.
Yeah, not at all.
And nobody says potato.
And you can't even how do you spell those? Like I have those arguments with people when I'm texting somebody like, "Well, you got this wrong." I'm like, "Tomato." I'm like, "Wait, it just spells out tomato.
Yeah, exactly.
Anywho, I do wonder what their numbers are for the Nike Volt collection. Vault.
Did you call it Volt again?
Vault. Golly. Vault. I don't know what to call it. Vault. The Nike Vault collection,
right?
Because it's got the old Seminole head logo and it's got the old like Florida State outline. Only thing I would counter to your point though, Corey, maybe it's just because the brand became so popular with the Seminole head and the spear, but they've never gone back to the Florida State, like the outline of the state of Florida. Yeah, they've never done like retro uniforms.
Oh yeah, but that's because of what they did. They have the best. They have such an iconic. I don't know if you know this, but they have an iconic brand now.
Oh, that's right. Right.
They have an iconic brand, so you wouldn't switch that now. But yeah, I like those shirts. The shirts that have the state outlined with state written on it. I think those are cool shirts, but they're never going to go back to the helmet.
Right. Yeah, I got a sweater with it on there. It's one of my favorites.
Nice.
All right, last one. I think I answered the question. Did I answer the question? What was the question? Yeah, about the curse. I don't think it's a curse. It's because the curse would be. Actually, I don't know. Maybe it is. I mean, but then again, it's like the original Seminole head logo. It wasn't like it was actually Osceola. It wasn't like we use Osceola and then we have banished him and forsaken the true portrait of Osceola for this mock-up from some dude in Oregon on a laptop tablet, Then you could maybe start talking about curses. I think, like Bill Simmons talked about how the Clippers are cursed because they actually used to be like the Buffalo Braves, and then they were purchased and stolen from the team of Buffalo, so maybe there was bad juju in that. I don't think we've reached those points. It's just been bad fashion. It's just bad fashion.
Sure.
The colors are bad. The logo looks weird. It's just bad fashion. I don't think there's a curse.
Okay. We agree.
Yeah. Gort loves the Knowles. Last one. I think we actually met this gentleman during the poker game night thing for William Floyd's charity, the Bar None Foundation.
All right. Okay.
I think so. Wake up! Kind of have this bad feeling that the football season may be delayed starting. If it starts 3-4 weeks late, I can see the NCAA telling the conferences to have a conference game only shortened season. It may make sense since most non-conference games are played early. What would be your solution in this scenario? Or scenario, maybe? How would the independent school fare in this situation? Just wondering and hoping for a quick recovery so we can avoid that scenario altogether. Go Knowles.
It'd be cool if Notre Dame couldn't play. Like they just had nobody to play except Navy and Army because everybody else was in a conference.
Do it, Swafford. Lay it down.
Yeah, man. I don't think that would happen. It could, though. What's going to be interesting, and the thing is I know Herb Street, that became a pretty polarizing It wasn't even polarizing. Most people just thought he was an idiot for saying what he said. He was just asked the question. And this was Friday. Was it Thursday or Friday that he's like, he doesn't think there's going to be a college football season. They're not going to have the virus in check by then, right, and whatever else he said. Now, he was just asked a question and was giving his opinion. And the way it was presented as if he was politicking for us not to have a college football season. He was just giving his opinion. He doesn't think it's going to happen. I don't necessarily agree with him, but I do think that it's way too early to know either way. Like, let's see where we are on May 1st with this thing. Because it's not going to be completely gone by September. But will it be under control? Will we have enough testing under control? Will we be able to test every football player in the country? Or at least for our sake, every football player in the ACC? Can the ACC order whatever that would be, 1,000 tests?
Yeah, come on. Come on, North Carolina and Duke, start carrying your weight.
Yeah,
you guys get
Krzyzewski drives around in a gold car. He can donate some money so every athlete in the ACC can get tested, and then there's really no risk at all. As long as everybody I think hopefully by then we'll have testing, much more testing. It'll be more readily accessible, and it'll be quicker to determine. And then if you get all negatives, then there's no reason you can't play the game. What I worry about is the crowd. And will we be in a place in August and September where a crowd will be able to, where 80,000 people will be able to watch a football game together? And that's what I don't know. So, I know they're talking about the soccer league. I don't know what it is, man.
La Liga.
Premier League.
La Liga.
There you go. Sure. About putting all the soccer players in the same area, right? Or the same two areas.
They're talking about doing that in China, the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association. Like, basically all the teams stay at the same hotel and play at the same facility so they can basically a bubble. I mean, you can't do that with football, though, man.
You can't, but you can try to come up with something similar. Yeah. Obviously, you can't do it completely. But then are you going to still have school? Or are you going to have kids on campus? But I think you can play it. I think you can play these games in September, even if it's not completely gone, which it won't be. But you're going to have to figure out if they're going to be played in front of fans. And trust me, they want to play these games in front of fans. But more important than that, they want to play the games. There are billions of dollars on the line for these pro football and college football TV contracts, and the ratings would be astronomical because literally we're going to be so starved for sports that I'm going to watch Texas A&M play Arkansas Little Rock. I don't care. I just want sports on my TV, live sports, and I think everybody listening to this, or most of you are like that, agree with that or share that sentiment, and that's what I wonder about in September is I think they will do everything they can to play the games. I just don't know. I don't know if it'll matter that much to them in the grand scheme of things if people are in the stands.
I retweeted it, Sports Business Daily. I think a guy named Michael Smith, and I think the guy got absolutely hammered for it. But he was just reporting what he had heard or whatever, was that there was talk amid a growing concern that the college football season could be pushed back. An alternative could come into play, moving the season up to July, August, and September. Basically, they want to play it then because, like, the heat factor, making it, I guess, I don't know, they think it's not going to be as transmissible because of the heat. But it makes no sense. Like, you need time more than anything. Like, I get that maybe the football season is not going to go off as planned, but I couldn't imagine them moving it up earlier. But I guess the administrators he had talked to had said that they feel like the only way they could get a season in, it would have to be abbreviated and it'd have to play it sooner rather than later.
But it sounds
so counterintuitive.
But doesn't it seem so like foolish right now? And I know I was just speculating about something, but I'm not speculating about the disease and the virus and where it's going to be necessarily. But we don't know, and that's what we're on a show to do is to speculate. But I just can't imagine they'll be like in June 14th or June 12th, like, hey guys, get your teams ready. College football season starts July 2nd.
Yeah.
I can't foresee that. We don't know where we're going to be April 30th. We might have another 30 days of lockdown. We might actually have a nationwide lockdown, or it might really die down. We might really flatten the curve, and it might start going. And we might be able to go out again. I know we're not going to get a vaccine for another year, but we could maybe as a society, hopefully, we'll figure out enough about the virus in the next 45 days to protect ourselves and to figure out how, to really protect ourselves and get it through to the dummies that are on the beaches, to get off the beaches and give us 30 days of almost isolation to try to get this thing away from us. And then I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I know you don't know that. I told you that I did go to medical school, but I didn't. That was a lie. I don't know enough about herd immunity or any of that craziness. By the way, that would be a great name for a band. Herd immunity would be incredible. That's you know what I mean, like an indie band, like an indie rock band. Just call yourselves Herd Immunity. I don't know anything. I don't know enough about that, so I'm not gonna even pontificate about it. But we just don't know. And so let's see where we are. Let's see what these numbers are, because they're skyrocketing right now. But maybe in a month, they start going down. Maybe by June 15th, it's to whatever, 30 new cases a day instead of whatever it is right now, 20,000. And then at some point, realistically, we are going to have to figure out what are we okay living with? What risk are we okay living with as a society? We can't be in our house for the next 12 months.
Right.
That's just not feasible. So at some point we will have to try to determine what the risk is. And I think you just want to try to mitigate the risk as much as possible. And that's why I brought up maybe not having fans at football games in the first part of or in the later part of the year, whenever they think it's going to come back. Whatever you have to do to mitigate the risk, but at some point we're going to have to try to get back to our lives as normal. And at this country, sports is a huge part of this country's fabric. It's not just a part of our paychecks, it's a part of this country's fabric, and it's something that we'll have to return just for the distraction of it. And so I hope we can figure it out, but we got time at least. We got time. You know what I mean, Aslan? We got time.
There's a link for this story. I retweeted on my own personal account, so check my account out for it. To Gort's point, though, one of the bullet points here is how would a season work? It would almost have to be conference games only. Teams could start with a June minicamp, July training camp, and 8 or 9 games in August and September. No postseason. If they were to move it up. Which,
I mean, I don't know.
Wouldn't be great, but I mean, if the option is nothing or that, we're all taking that.
Absolutely.
Without thinking.
Absolutely. Sign me up for that. I'll go cover college football games in July. I don't care, and I'll go cover a college football game from in an empty stadium, or even if we're not allowed to go, I'll go. I'll write about it I just want to watch football again. I want to watch sports again. So whatever we can do to get back there with while being safe is what I vote for.
And this is going to sound like I'm pandering, and I'm not. We got to go because we're almost at over an hour. Maybe people won't take you folks at home for granted as much. Maybe it's not as big of a deal. Maybe it's a bigger deal with pro sports and college sports, but I can't imagine, we talked to Devontae Love Taylor last week and about, you got a good situation. You're in Miami or at FIU. It's not the best situation to be a college football player playing at FIU, but it's certainly not the worst. Why would you leave? You all conference, you're set up, you're all right, you're comfortable there. And it's like, hey, man, I'm from Florida, I'm from the South. College football is a big deal. I want to play in front of crowds of 70, 80,000 people. And if it's no football or empty football, I'm taking empty football without crying about it. Trust me. But, man, competing without a crowd, I still can't. Somebody told me to watch WWE because apparently they're still wrestling and there's nobody in attendance. And maybe we all need to start watching that to condition ourselves for this. But I mean, just think about being in the big house in 91. You talked about that game. I was in Pasadena. I can't imagine sports with nobody yelling and the stress and the drama of people's hopes and dreams in limbo live second by second. It's going to take something away from the product. I think a huge part of it. But again, we'll take what we can get because it's better than nothing.
And again, I'm obviously speaking out of my backside. I have no idea what's going to happen, and I readily admit that.
It's
at least a possibility.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying it's a probability.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Man, what if that did happen, what a bad break for Florida State. This would be the year to have to go play at Florida and at Clemson. There's nobody there.
Right.
You're not going to hear anything. It's like nothing's going to be shaken. You're going to be able to hear the snap count. You'll be fine.
Oh, man. And sadly, watching all this stuff, I want to eventually run for governor of Florida, Corey. I've seen enough. I think I can hang in there. But then I couldn't pronounce the word vault. So that probably hurts my candidacy. So good show, but that's going to kind of linger with me here. So I'm going to go lick my wounds. No good way to end the show.
How often are you going to say the word? How often are you going to say the word vault anyway?
Well, I want to talk about our education system. I want to vault our public schools back to the – actually, we've never been to the top. But I want to vault our public schools to the top of the charts.
Sure.
But anywho. All right, we're done, Corey. You'll get Corey and Gene for a whole podcast. It's pretty much 40 minutes. If there's anything of newsworthiness, we'll maybe tack something onto that, but that'll probably be an entire show later this week. I think Wednesday we'll probably drop it, but do stay tuned. We'll post the thread on the Tribal Council for Renegade Express, and we might record that on Thursday. We might record that on Wednesday, but we'll have 3 shows for you folks this week. That I do declare. So, for Corey and Aslan, thanks for listening to another edition of Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.